I remember pulling up in my driveway and a notification came on my phone, and it was a message from a woman I didn't even know telling me that she felt led to share with me some awful things that a group of church officers in my own denomination were saying about me. And so she sent them to me, and I see words like Jezebel, satanic. If her husband loved her enough, he'd tell her to shut up. Glaring from the screen, and I scrolled to see more and more and more awful things said about me by people that I respected, by people I thought I could trust, by people who are ordained in the church to help people like me. And they were saying this because of my writing, encouraging, equipping women in the church. I didn't get it. It was also disorienting. At first, as awful as it felt, I thought it would be easy to address. I mean, these aren't just jerks on the internet that I should ignore, but these are officers in the church. So I wanted to address this in the church using what is called the proper channels in church government. And it was from this long and disorienting, and traumatizing process of trying to address spiritual abuse in the church that led me to want to help others who are also disillusioned in the church. And so The Hope in Our Scars is a book that I hope will give tools to all of those hurting in the church and all those who want to minister well to those harmed in the church to be able to rise from disillusionment. I didn't have much of a voice, I found, when I wanted to address spiritual abuse in my own church and in my own denomination. And trying to go through that process, I wanted to do it in all the right ways, the mature ways, the ways laid out for me by the church government. But I found as a woman, I had to have others do that for me. So I began writing. I used my voice on my blog and on social media and just documenting the process. And as I did that, so many others came forward, emailing me, commenting on social media, commenting under my articles, sharing their stories. My story drew out their stories, and boy, did it just blow open my empathy for all those who are hurting in the church. As people were sharing their stories with me, I realized that what we were after, that we might have been disillusioned ourselves in what our expectations were in the church. You know, I thought in the beginning of my writing, in the beginning of my teaching, that if we just got our theology right, you know, if we could just know for certain these certain things about God and the church, that would lead to spiritual maturity. Now I'm finding that God works in very different, much more imaginative and much more awe-inspiring ways for our spiritual growth. I think the main thing that I wanted to discover in writing this book for myself and to help others with is beauty. I found that to be so healing for me in my own process of naming and addressing disillusionment and abuse even in the church. But as I began writing the book, I realized I really wanted to talk about hope. And I learned something very important, I think, that hope isn't sentimental, that hope actually looks at the ugly. It looks at the underground. It bears scars, and our scars bear testimony. And this is Christ's church. He doesn't want a curated church. He doesn't need a curated church. He is big enough and glorious enough and beautiful enough to meet us where we are and then to invite us into beauty where we are. And He is that beauty. And then to walk in goodness together, communing in what's real. The Hope in Our Scars is kind of a subversive title, and I really like that because you don't think of scars from harm in the church and disillusionment to lead to hope. But I've learned that hope is disruptive. It's not sentimental. It does bear scars. It disrupts our lives. But that is a severe mercy because it draws out what our true longings are and where they're met. If you've experienced disillusionment with the church, if you've been harmed in the church, or maybe you're just asking questions, wanting to help others who are hurting in the church. The Hope in Our Scars is an invitation to beauty. And I really want to look at how John describes himself as a disciple in the beginning of his revelation. And he describes himself as a partner and a brother, a sibling, in affliction, and also the kingdom of God, and in endurance as we are getting there together as a church. And I look at that and think, okay, that's what we are as disciples. And so we open up talking about affliction and what that means and how we're all going to experience that. And then we go into opening the door of the kingdom of God together and the imagination that we're invited to there and the wonder that that brings us to, so that we can endure together to our goal, what we're headed for, to see the face of God. So in addition to the 8 sessions, I'm excited that we get to offer you some conversations with these valuable voices, experts in the field, who've also written about harm in the church and naming some of the disillusionment that we're facing in the church today. And my hope for you is that in watching these conversations, that those will kickstart conversations of your own. The Hope in Our Scars is available now.